Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today we have a real Scottish weather. I have the rain and the wind in my face and it is really, really cold. Yeah, guess where I am? I'm at the Dalwhinnie Distillery, the highest distillery in whole of Scotland and therefore all of Britain. Yeah. The Dalwhinnie Distillery was founded in 1897 by 3 Scottish people, and actually the distillery was sold 1 year later in 1898, and they kind of renovated and made it a bit different, and they actually put these pagodas on top that are just so iconic for the Dalwhinnie Distillery. Later then, in 1934, something really terrible happened. Someone knocked over a lamp. And this actually caused a fire and burnt down the whole place. The distillery was built up again, and in 1938 it was up and running and producing more of the nice Dalwhinnie whiskey. Yeah, today we are going to find out how the distillery is actually producing their whiskey, what is special about it, and in the end we're going to have an interview with Neil Murphy. Yeah, stay tuned and let's see. So we're here at the start of the production in the Dalwhinnie Distillery, and every good whiskey distilling starts with good ingredients. There are 2 core ingredients, the water and the malt. The water at the Dalwhinnie Distillery comes from a river up north. It's called the Alt am Sluich, and the river comes from a loch called the Green Lochen. The Green Lochen is actually not owned by the distillery, but they have an agreement with the landlord, and they give him 60 bottles of Dalwhinnie 15 for all the water they need per year. The other ingredient, the malt, actually comes from Aberdeenshire, where it is grown and then malted at a plant and then used here at the distillery. The malt mill behind me is a very old bobby mill. They use a similar mill. They still run with a bobby mill because these mills are just of very high quality, and this is used to grind down the barley to a fine grist for later use in the mashing. At Dalwhinnie, they use only unpeated malt because it is their distillery character. Yeah, this is the introduction into the ingredients, and let's head on to the mashing. Behind me here is the lauder tun. The lauder tun is a full stainless steel tun and is used to wash out the sugar and the starch from the grist. So the grist actually comes in here with a conveyor up, and then it shoots down into the lauder tun. Each cycle takes about 8 tons of grist, and then we sprinkle at 80 degrees centigrade hot water on it. We take about 60,000 liters of hot water, and this takes about 8 hours, so the sugar and the starch is fully dissolved in the water. And what they do then is they take 34,000 liters and pump it to the next stage for the fermentation. The rest of this cycle is actually pumped to a separate tank and then used for the next stage. What we're then left is with this stuff. Not actually this stuff yet, because this stuff is called the draft, and they have to dry it and then they have to press it. And this is, the leftovers. The leftovers actually contain a lot of protein, which makes it suitable, very, very suitable for the cattle farming, because that's actually what cattle farmers really need. So they sell it off to local cattle farmers. That's one of the reasons why, Scotland also has very good beef, because they actually use stuff from the whiskey production. And now we go on to the fermentation. Here at the fermentation, we have these things called wash bags. The wash bags are 5 meters high, and they can store 34,000 liters of wort. The wort is filled to about where my feet are, and then we add a lot of yeast to get the fermentation started. The wash bags here at Dalwhinnie are really traditional. They're made of massive wood, And this wood is actually really special. This is actually Siberian larch, very special wood. These wash bags are very old, 40 years of age, so yeah, that's pretty old for a wash bag. Unfortunately, they had to replace one, this one here at the back. It is made of Oregon pine and is only 15 years old. Yeah, the fermentation is also quite long. They take 60 hours and they get it a wash, a beer with about 9% ABV, which is also pretty high. What is special about Dalwhinnie is they're looking out for a really fruity wash. They're really going into that fruity stuff. If we look in here, this is still fermentation going on. You see there is bubbles coming up. This is the CO2 from the yeast process, and I can smell it's still pretty yeasty and still a bit flowery going on. If we go to one of the ready-made, the finished products that go to the distillation, they are really a bit acidic. They're really going into a fruity character, an apple-like character, which really, when you smell it, it reminds you a bit of a cider, of a normal apple cider, because it's just so fruity. And this is really what the Dalwhinnie distillery is looking for. They're looking for a really nice fruity character. Yeah. After the whole tank is emptied, they have an automatic steam cleaning system which takes hot steam and just steams everything out, so it kills all the bacteria and keeps the process really clean and the quality really high. And yeah, the wort is now pumped into the next room and we're ready for the distillation. This here is the still room, and it's actually really nice because it's warm in here. Yeah, we start off with the wash still. The wash still has a capacity of 17,000 liters, and you can always identify the wash still with the watch glass. The watch glass is actually there to see how high the distillate is bubbling, and you never want to have still over bubbling, because you could get bits into the later production stages and you could have pressure forming up. So you always want to look at the watch glass and have a look that the still is not bubbling over. The still then goes outside the building actually and ends up in a warm tub, which is a pretty old-fashioned condenser. What the warm tub is, you have a huge wooden tun with a kind of a warm tube inside that is going down in a spiral. Through this pipe there's steam running, and this pipe is actually really cold because the whole tun is filled with fresh spring water just from the water source. So during these 100 meters of warm tub, you have a lot of contact of the vapors with the copper, and that makes the whiskey, yeah, just better because you have catalytic reactions, and this takes out all the bad taste and you're left with a really pleasant tasting spirit. So after the first step, the wash still, we end up with about 22% ABV, and these are now called the low wines, and they go into the low wines tank. The low wines and some other stuff is actually filled into the spirit still. The spirit still is very important for the character of the whiskey. It's a bit taller and a bit narrower, but the whole shape of the still is just this pear shape. There are no reflux bowls, so it's kind of a straightforward shape. So we have a bit of a more of a character that is a bit spicy, a bit more in there, and that's what the people at the distillery call the fireworks. So yeah, it has a bit of a character that is, yeah, just a bit spicier. Also, the spirit still ends up outside in a warm tub where you again have a lot of contact with copper. But the problem with the warm tubs is they are very, yeah, influenced by the seasons. If you have the spring water in the river, it's a bit hotter, then you have to change the water in the warm tub a bit faster than you would have to do in winter. In winter, you have colder water, so the condensation is a bit faster. And if you have faster condensation, you get a bit of a more of a spicy character, a bit of a more of these fireworks, and that's what the people at the distillery do. They take this whiskey from the cold seasons, and they actually make a whiskey that is called the Winter's Gold. You might have already tasted it, and it's a bit of a stronger character. Yeah, for the cuts, for all of you who are interested in that, we have 20 minutes of foreshots at about 80% ABV. Then we have the heart, which is about 56, 57% ABV, something around that, which is stored in the finished spirit tank, which actually goes into the cask at about this strength. And in the end, we are left with the feints, and they're all collected in separate tanks. And every time you add something to the still again, with the low wines, you just combine the foreshots and the feints, so nothing is actually lost during the state of the spirit still. And so at the end, we still have a bit of crunching numbers. We have 17,000 liters capacity, 16,000 liters capacity in the spirit still, and they're all actually heated with steam now. Back in the days, we used to have coal fire, so direct fire, which is a bit rougher, but nowadays you only do steam. Yeah, so this is how the distillation takes place, and let's now see how the whiskeys are stored. And now I come to my favorite part at the distillery, the warehouse. Oh, I just love that smell. It's damp, it's cold, and you have that smell of oak and whiskey in the air. Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, the warehouses at distillery are also really special, as the distillery of Dalwhinnie is the highest distillery of Scotland and therefore also Britain. And what that means is we have an altitude of 350 meters and also the lowest temperatures. And the town of Dalwhinnie, a small town next to the distillery, is actually the coldest town in whole of Britain. The average temperature here is 6 degrees Celsius. And in winter we go down to -10, and in summer we go up to about 20 degrees Celsius. Yeah, so this gives the spirit a really perfect place to mature. We have here a dunnage warehouse, and on site we have another racked warehouse with 8 stories tall, but you always have these thick stone walls. And that means even though in summer we have this really cold climate in here, that means the casks are really calm, they're not heating up, and a heating up cask takes more out of spirit and gives it back in as it shrinks, and therefore the spirit matures a bit more calmly. And that is really good for the character of the Dalwhinnie distillery. These casks behind me are actually hogsheads. That means the Americans send over these staves, and the barrels are raised again and built a bit differently than the normal American standard barrel. The normal American standard barrel is 52 American gallons, which is 200 liters. These barrels here, these bourbon barrel hogsheads, have about 250 liters, so a bit more. And they are stored for, most of the whiskeys here are stored for 15 years. After 15 years in bourbon hogsheads, you have normal Dalwhinnie 15 years old. If the casks are really good, then the distillery fills them into sherry casks, Spanish sherry casks, for about 1 year. And this is called a finish. And this finished whiskey is then the distiller's edition, which has a more of a fruity character, more of a stronger character even, because of these Spanish oak casks. Yeah, the last whiskey is Dalwhinnie's Winter's Gold. I told something about how it is distilled differently. Also, it is stored in 2 different casks, 2 different kind of casks, and afterwards they're mixed together. As they have different ages, they don't write an age statement on it. Yeah, let's have a try. I actually got some of the raw spirit here in my glass. I can smell it's fruity, but I don't smell that much because it's just that cold in here. It's definitely fruity, but you already realize there's a bit of a spicy character going on. Yeah, definitely has a bit more oomph to it than normal light spirited. So it's a bit of a character, a whiskey with character, definitely. 67% ABV filled into the cask. We lose about 25%. Usually the distilleries in Scotland lose about 30% in their casks, but as it is so damp and cold here, you have less evaporation, so we're lucky to only have 25% lost to the Angel's share. The ABV drops down to about 57% ABV, 57%, and then it is ready to be filled in the cask. Yeah, this was the production, and now we go on to an interview with Neil Murphy, so stay tuned. I'm gonna ask him a few questions, and also we're gonna have the 3 core whiskies from the distillery. Yeah, I'm standing here with Neil Murphy. You have 20 years of experience with Diageo, and you're now senior site manager at Dalwhinnie. So thank you very much for having us.
You're welcome.
So what does a senior site manager do?
So I'm responsible for 3 of our malt distilleries actually, Dalwhinnie, Blairathel and Cornwall-McGar. So I look after the operations, distillery operations, and also visitor centres.
Okay, yeah, 20 years at Dalwhinnie. You have never done anything before, yes?
So yeah, 28 years actually with Diageo. I've been in my current role as senior site manager for 2 years. Previous to that, I spent a number of years in grain distilling and various other roles.
Nice. So, Dalwhinnie, you have a bit of a close standard range. What are we having today?
So we've got our standard 15-year-old single malt. We've also got our distiller's edition, and we've got our winter's gold.
Okay, let's just start with the 15 then. So I've talked a bit about that in the warehouse. 15 years in bourbon hogsheads?
Yes.
Oh, nice. It's fruity. It's bit of vanilla in there, bit of honey.
Yeah, definitely honey.
Bit of heather,
yeah.
Also. Oh, nice. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, nice balance. Nice balance between the fruity character, bit of apples, bit of and a bit of a flowery note as well.
Yeah.
A bit of heather. Also, quite a good amount of oak though.
Yeah. Yeah. Good balance between them.
Yeah, it's a nice balanced whiskey. So the Dalwhinnie, is that pronounced right?
Sure.
What does that stand for? What's this Dalwhinnie mean?
So it stands for the meeting place. So historically, when farmers were driving their cattle down to the central belt of Scotland to market, the various routes from the Highlands gathered would feed into what was Dalwhinnie.
Okay, so Dalwhinnie was built right at the centre of the Highlands then? Or?
Sure, yeah, it's where the roads, the different roads from the north meet.
Okay.
That's why it's called the meeting place.
The meeting place. Oh, interesting. Nice. Yeah. And you're quite high up here, right?
We are really the highest distillery in Scotland. We have an average temperature year round of around about 6.5 degrees.
Okay.
Which gives us plenty of cold water for our to help us make the character of spirit that we make with Dalwhinnie.
Nice. So yeah, what else do we have?
So we've got the distiller's edition. So The Distiller's Edition is our Dalwhinnie, but double matured, so it's finished in a sherry cask, just to give it something different, that sweet sherry cask.
So the sherry cask, is that European oak casks?
Yes.
So can we expect, is it heavier, more bitter, or what can we expect from it?
You can get the sweetness from the sherry cask. With the fruit type flavours.
Oh. So it's also 43% ABV?
Yes.
It's oh yeah, it's more of a dried fruit character, bit of a what is it that is
So there's still that bourbon cask influence, the kind of vanilla elements.
yeah, you do have the sweetness from the bourbon cask, you do have a bit of a caramel vanilla thing going on, but also the what is that? I think it's berries or cherries or something like that. Together with a bit of a dried plum note.
Yeah.
That's really, really nice. That's actually really oily, really oily in there. Oh, and just a beautiful, nice, dark sherry note in there. So that's also sherry cask?
Also, yes.
Ah, okay, nice. So you're the highest distillery in Scotland.
Yep.
So 350 meters, I think, 1,000.
Yeah,
100 something
100
feet.
Yeah. Roughly.
Yeah. So do you ever trouble with deliveries with the snow and everything?
We're quite fortunate that we tend to not be impacted too much. The local authorities do a great job of keeping the road open as much as they can. So in heavy snowfall, the road on the Dalwhinnie Pass can be closed for periods of time. But yeah, as soon as the snow lets up, the ploughs are out, including the road, and lets us get our deliveries.
So the other thing is, you do have a warm tub outside with the.
Sure.
Is that any trouble with freezing or something like that?
No. We obviously will drain the warm tub down if we're closed for any period of time over the winter. But yeah, because we're running, most of the time the water's flowing, so it doesn't get a chance to freeze.
Oh, okay. So, but is the warm tub, is that low maintenance? Because I think I've seen one in Ireland or somewhere, but
yeah, no,
never seen these
there are
things.
still a few distilleries operating warm tubs in Scotland. We changed our warm tubs for condensers around 30 years ago, and it actually completely changed the character of the spirit. So yeah, it made basically what we ended up with was a much lighter character spirit, which was very different from the Dalwhinnie that you would know. And we've actually created a 25-year-old special release, which was a spirit distilled in the time that the condensers were in place.
So did you then retrofit it?
We went back, we took worms back in, yeah.
So then
went back to the traditional.
So you're really known for a kind of a Highland, a bit rougher and a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we produce what you would call a sulphury spirit.
Sulphurous.
But the sulphury notes in the new make spirit actually disappear through the maturation period. So the end result is actually quite a light spirit.
Yeah, I've seen a bit I had the raw spirit, and yeah, you do have a bit of what you said, a firework in there.
Ure, yeah,
Really
spent
love that.
matches type sulphury.
That's-
Which comes from really inhibiting the amount of interaction with the copper. So the cold water that we use from the dam that we get our water from allows us to condense the whisky vapours really quickly to limit the amount of copper interaction, and that's what leaves that sulphury character in the spirit.
Okay, especially during the winter time, right?
Yeah, especially
So,
during the winter time.
It's called here. We have the last one, the the winter's gold.
Sure. So this is a flavour-led Dalwhinnie, and basically we select the spirit that has been distilled during the coldest months between October and March. So where the worm tubs are operating at the coldest, the vapour is really, condensing very quickly. So that sulphury character is even more emphasised in the new make spirit.
Okay, so it's a bit more forward and a bit more. It's almost, there's a bit of a remembrance. I would even call it a bit smoky or phenolic or something like that. I'm not sure. But also flowery, heather, and definitely that honey sweetness also going on in there. So this is a mixture of casks. Do you tell what kind of mixture you have?
No, we would just do, as I say, it's flavour led, so really it's down to our blenders to select,
Okay.
the range of casks that give it its character.
Okay, so cheers.
So a bit more spicy, sharper finish.
Whoa. First I want to say, hey, that's lighter, not spicy, but when you have it in your mouth, first of all, it feels like a light character, very fluid. But then when you swallow it, you do realize, there's something behind that. And then you get the spicy. It's almost like a little bit of a rye flavor, like a bit of a spicy bread, maybe a bit of oriental spices. Oh, I like it. I do like it. Okay, so what are the plans for the future, and what else? What products do you also have at Dalwhinnie?
So plans for the future are really continuing to produce the fantastic spirit that goes into our Dalwhinnie single malts. Visitor centres for the Scotch industry are massive at the moment. Visitor numbers continue to grow year on year. And anyone who's planning a visit to our visitor centres at Dalwhinnie here, we also have a Distillery exclusive bottling, which is only available. It's called Lizzie's Dram.
Isn't it that
So
Lizzie's Dram, yeah.
So Lizzie's Dram. So Lizzie was actually the first female operator at Dalwhinnie Distillery, and she retired in February this year. So we dedicated our Distillery exclusive bottling to her.
48% ABV.
Yeah.
She was quite a.
So and only available here in the visitor centre.
Nice. So we've shown you around the distillery. It's really a nice place, and it's very beautiful, and the mountain, the view around you is just beautiful. Yeah. So how many people do you get per year?
So currently we're receiving around 54,000 visitors a year.
Nice.
And continuing year on year, the numbers seem to keep growing. So hopefully that's a continuing trend.
Okay, yeah. So I highly encourage everyone to find the distillery if you ever come to Scotland. It's kind of you have to pass through here.
You have to if you're going north.
So
pretty much you're one road.
You should definitely take a stop here. So So thank you very much for the interview. And if you want to buy any whiskies, if you live in Germany, then you will find them on Whisky.de. So take a look, and thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thanks very much. You're welcome.